gambling industry in Australia. How big is the problem of addiction? Who benefits? Who bears the burden? And what can we do about it? We put a spotlight on a problem that many would prefer remained in the shadows. From Melbourne, you're watching The World from Below. I'm Lizzie O'Shea. Tonight we're joined by Dr Charles Livingstone and Jemal Ahmet. Charles is a senior lecturer in the School of Public Health at Monash University. He has a background in economics and social theory, and his principal research interest is in gambling studies, particularly the relationship between poker machine gambling and socioeconomic disadvantage and health inequality. Jemal is the Chief Executive Officer of Whittlesea Community Connections, a community organisation which connects people to the services and supports that they need. Jemal has 30 years' experience of working in the community and not-for-profit sectors. We start today's program looking at the issue of problem gambling. In 2010, the Productivity Commission published a report into gambling. It found that total losses in Australia reached just over $19 billion, or an average of $1,500 per adult who gambled. The report also found 15% of these regular players of poker machines are problem gamblers. Their share of total spending on machines is estimated to range around 40%. Charles, can you give us a general picture of problem gambling in Australia? How much is being lost and how?
Okay, well, in Australia, as you just said, there's about $20 billion a year which is lost by people gambling in various forms. Of that, about 55%, or around 11 billion, goes through poker machines in pubs and clubs for the most part. So it's also true to say that about 80% of the people with a gambling problem use poker machines predominantly. So people with gambling problems often use multiple forms of gambling, but the one that they use the most and where they spend the most money is poker machine gambling. And Australia's unique because we've got lots of high-impact poker machines, which in most other countries are concentrated in casinos. They're like, in Australia, they're generally located in clubs and pubs in suburban or rural locations. So people find them very accessible. They're very high impact and they can consume a great deal of money.
When you say high impact, what do you mean?
Well, in New South Wales, every poker machine can allow a maximum bet of $10 per spin. So every time you push the button, you can bet up to $10, and you can do that every 2 seconds. So you can imagine how much money you can go through. And if you go into a gambling venue, I'm not suggesting anyone should, but if you do and observe the way people use them, then you can see people going through $400 and $500 in a matter of minutes, really. So they're very, very quick to consume money.
And can you tell us what the difference is in respect of gambling on poker machines versus horse racing or other kinds of betting? Is there something particular about poker machines that makes them addictive?
Yes, well, there's a couple of characteristics of them. The first one is that they're continuous. So if you go to the horse races, you have to wait a while between races. Now, you can put bets on at various things, but it's not like you can sit there and put a bet on every 2 seconds. That's exactly what you can do with a poker machine. And the second thing, very importantly to remember about poker machines, is they use very well established principles of conditioning, classical and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is where you ring a bell and you teach your dog to eat when you ring the bell, and soon you find that the dog salivates without there being any food present when you ring the bell. And that was discovered by Pavlov in the 19th century. And operant conditioning, which was discovered by B.F. Skinner and others in the 1950s, where if you give an animal a reward but you can't predict when you'll get the reward, if you have it pushing a little bar or something, giving it an intermittent or variable reward will make it very acclimatised to using that device to keep playing with it in order to get these intermittent rewards. Now, you put those two things together and that's exactly what a poker machine does. And over the last 100 years since they were invented, they've been refined and refined and refined until the contemporary fully electronic poker machines or slot machines are designed to be as attractive as possible and to get as much money as possible out of people. And of course, the side effect of that, it's not a side effect, it's actually a main effect of that, is that people find them incredibly addictive.
So $20 billion worth of losses, a large amount of that coming from poker machines. Jemal, what does that look like for a community organisation trying to deliver services that are supporting people losing this kind of money?
Yeah, look, that kind of impact at a local level is felt in a very real way, in a very human way. For instance, we collect some local data about the number of family violence presentations to our organisation. In fact, every person who presents with a family violence profile, we capture that data, and we're finding that approximately 12% of all our family violence cases have a problem gambling component to them. So, not saying that problem gambling causes family violence, but that it's a contributing factor to the problem, to the family violence cases that are presented to us. So that's one example of where people's vulnerabilities are increased as a result of this additional burden that they have, which is problem gambling addiction. The other thing that impacts is often when we try and argue against the spread of more gambling opportunities in our community, we're accused of, being the fun police and trying to limit what is in effect illegal activity. But we're very conscious that for every single person who has a problem gambling issue, they impact on lots of other people in our community too. So in our organisation, we will get a mother who comes in for emergency relief, for instance, because her partner has lost the wages for that week or that fortnight, and she has no food to feed the kids, or no money to pay for excursions for the child. So we're dealing with those sorts of impacts. So it's when that happens, it's no longer about the individual who gambles, but it's about the impacts they have in the broader community. So some of those impacts are magnified, and we as community service organisations are responding and trying to pick that up, but that is a burden that is actually preventing us doing other work as well. So there's actually some costs to the non-gambling issues in our community, as well as obviously to the people impacted by problem gamblers. That can be anything up between 5 and 10 people, I think the statistics and the research has shown.
And I suppose that means it's not just a financial problem, but there's also other social impacts, like crisis accommodation as well.
Absolutely. I think there's a huge burden on the community services sector in terms of responding to the scale of problem gambling in our communities, and poker machines, we feel, are the chief cause of that. I'll give you some statistics for our area. I mean, 20 billion nationally is a big thing to get people's heads around, but we have a total of 10 EGM venues, electronic poker machine venues, in our municipality, and they have a total of 688 machines. Although the density of machines per population is not one of the highest, we translate that as being the 4th highest contributor on a statewide basis to poker machine losses. So our machines in Whittlesea are extremely profitable, and for that reason we get targeted by the industry. Biggest grossing venue in Victoria, the Epping Plaza Hotel, is in Whittlesea in a shopping centre, and poker machine losses there measure something between $21 and $22 million every year.
You're watching The World from Below, and we'll be back to discuss what we know about poker machines and how they're designed to be addictive. Stay with us.